no doubt about it. There's something special about Nebraska football, something unique that sets the Huskers apart from other programs around the country. At NU, expectations are higher, and excellence is a tradition. The result is a program that ranks as one of the winningest of all time. And with national championships in '94 and '95, it is the most dominant of the decade.
We do things the right way here. You know, anything less, you know, any cheating or anything, you know, would never be tolerated by Coach Osborne and the rest of the staff.
What's truly special about Nebraska football, though, is more than winning. It's the people who make up the Nebraska football family.
We're here, we go to class together, we play football together, and what time that we're not alone with each other is when we're asleep. So we're like a family, and we're all like best friends. And you know, that I definitely say love in a family would be the perfect word to describe it.
There's something about being a Nebraska native and playing for Nebraska. I mean, it's like you're playing for your family, but your family is the whole state. I mean, Nebraska is a great place to live. It's an even better place to go play football.
There are the fans, who have faithfully sold out Memorial Stadium for 36 years, and the players, whose unity and year-round dedication to the sport is unsurpassed. And there is, of course, a coaching staff led by Tom Osborne, whose integrity and commitment to the program has established an unshakable sense of stability that is rare in the game today.
A lot has been made about Tom Osborne's 250th win and Tom Osborne's 25th year. Well, it's really our 25th year and our 250 wins because the players, the coaches, and the overall program really have had an awful lot to do with whatever success has been experienced.
While he unselfishly shares his accomplishments with others, the 1997 campaign was a silver anniversary celebration for Tom Osborne. It was his 25th season as Nebraska's head coach. As it would turn out, it was also his last. The 108th season of Nebraska football got underway earlier than most with an August 30th kickoff against Akron. While it wasn't exactly the marquee matchup on the schedule, it was a date that had long been circled by Husker fans who had endured 9 long months of anticipation and speculation while waiting for the '97 campaign. Despite returning just 11 starters, the 6th-ranked Huskers were determined to make another run for #1.
It doesn't get any better than this right here. The Huskers making their way out on the field. They'll be joined by the Akron Zips shortly. We're about ready for the season opener.
It didn't take long for Nebraska to show that determination. On the second possession of the season, Scott Frost gained 51 yards on a pair of options. The second put the Huskers on the board and in control as expected. It was the first of many points and many highlights turned in by NU at the Zips' expense. Moments later, sophomore Ralph Brown stepped into the Big Red spotlight with the 5th interception of his young career, which put Frost and company within striking distance once again. 2 plays later, fullback Joel Makovica struck gold when he powered his way into Husker hearts and into the end zone with a legendary never-say-die run that set the tone for the season.
Makovica breaks tackles inside the 10. He's down to the 5, 4-yard, still on his feet. He's in. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th effort, and Makovica scores.
I guess I was just telling myself that I could see the end zone, and like Coach says, if you're that close to it, stick it in because you don't know what's going to happen the next play. And all I was thinking is I might not get this chance this game again to score, so I was going to get it in.
Makovica's unstoppable effort gave Nebraska a 14-0 lead, a lead that would grow to 38-0 by halftime, thanks in part to a pair of second-quarter touchdowns by Amon Green, who picked up nearly half of his 99 yards with this 45-yard dash to the end zone. Because he played sparingly in what turned out to be a lopsided win, it was the only game all season in which Amon failed to reach the century mark on the ground. With the game well in hand as the second half began, The rest of the day belonged to the legions of Big Red backups who took a tour of duty against the outmanned Zips and served notice as to the quality of Nebraska's depth.
Here's London running the option right side, going to keep the football 20. He's to the 25, to the 30, 35, 40. Look out! He's to the 50, 45, 40, 35, and he's finally wrestled down at the 31-yard line of Akron. But Frankie London turned on the Jets.
I'm trying to make myself a better quarterback and be at that level where if Sky goes down, then everyone will have confidence in me.
Among the 100-plus who played were several Huskers who made their first career starts and 6 true freshmen who made their collegiate debut. Be it their first start or first game, the '97 season opener was an eye-opener from beginning to end.
Oh yeah, the first start of my college career. It's something I'm always going to remember, and I'll cherish it for a lifetime.
Really, I was really nervous. But once we stepped out on the field and we ran through the tunnel, it was all right. And when I looked up in the stands and saw my family up there, it felt a lot better.
Yeah, it was beyond my wildest dreams, pretty much. I just wanted to contribute to the team this year, you know. I just wanted to get on the field any way possible.
Fittingly, it was another true freshman who put the finishing touches on the Big Red's big day. The Huskers' first recruit out of Mississippi in 2 decades, Correll Buckhalter saw second-team duty at IBAC and scored 2 of Nebraska's 3 second-half touchdowns in a 59-14 win over Akron. It was the kind of day that showed the rest of the country that the Husker O was ready to go.
I think that just showed the intensity we came in with and the way the whole offensive side of the football wanted to get the job done and quiet some people and show some people that has a chance to be a great offensive football team.
Game number 2 of the '97 season came 2 weeks later against Central Florida. Another unheralded opponent, the Golden Knights came to Lincoln with an opportunity to make a name for themselves against the nation's premier program.
Let's go, Bobby.
What was expected to be another walk in the park for the Huskers turned out to be an early season wake-up call for a Nebraska team seeking its 3rd national title in 4 years.
Central Florida was a very good team, and they had an excellent quarterback, some decent receivers, and overall they had a very good game against, especially a top 5 team. And we've learned not to take any teams for granted.
Led by Top Gun quarterback Dante Culpepper, the Golden Knights got the Big Reds' attention with an early score and a 7-0 lead after 1 quarter of play. But after the break, it didn't take long for NU to get on track. A 23-yard burst up the middle by Joel Makovica got the Huskers close. Then a 16-yard pass from Scott Frost to a wide-open Sheldon Jackson got them on the board.
I saw the safety had me man-to-man, and I don't know what happened after that. Next thing you know, I'm jogging in the end zone. Safety's about 5-6 yards behind me. Scott looked at me, threw the ball at me, and that was all she wrote.
After a Central Florida field goal made it 10-7, sophomore Frankie London engineered another Husker scoring drive that was highlighted by Kenny Cheatham's spectacular catch.
Fires a pass to Cheatham. He makes a great grab. He's marked down at the 13-yard line.
2 plays later, it was London who gave Nebraska the lead again, but only momentarily. The Golden Knights answered back and took a 17-14 lead into the locker room at halftime, leaving the Huskers to regroup and refocus in order to keep their championship hopes in sight.
You could tell that we had a young defense out there. Guys were still taking some plays off, and they just have to understand that, now that they're playing at Nebraska, there's no such thing as taking a play off.
The second half was a much different and better story for Big Red fans. Correll Buckhalter ran for 2 touchdowns for the 2nd straight game, as NU scored 17 unanswered points in the 3rd quarter to take a lead that it would not relinquish. The Blackshirts saw to that. All-America rush-in Grant Wistrom led the charge with his first sack of the season. Mike Brown established himself as one of the team's toughest tacklers. And Jerome Peterson left his mark on the game with the first interception of his career. While Central Florida did manage to get back on the board in the fourth quarter, Nebraska's response was immediate thanks to another Frost to Jackson hookup.
Over the middle, got Sheldon Jackson wide open. He's to the 20, the 15. Sheldon Jackson, what a great pass and a great catch.
Frost finished it off himself for the final margin of victory. While 38-24 was much closer than expected, and for most in the Husker camp, a little too close for comfort, Nebraska's win over Central Florida may have provided the perfect preparation for one of the Big Red's biggest tests in years. Up next, the battle in Seattle with second-ranked Washington.
We're going to be fully prepared when we go to Washington. And I think it's going to be a great game, and the best team will come out on top.
This is the reason why you come to Nebraska. For these big games, playing in national championship games, Big 12 championship games. Nebraska versus Washington. We're going up to Seattle with the plan to win.
Despite the fact that it was just the third game of the season, the Nebraska-Washington clash turned out to be a defining moment of the entire '97 campaign. It was mid-September, and the national championship race was already beginning to take shape. While both teams were ranked in the top 10 at the time, the perception was that the second-ranked Huskies were on the rise and on par with the elite teams in the nation. As it would turn out, the standard of excellence established by Nebraska remains unmatched.
Everybody got to step up today. Let's go.
The game also provided a matchup between two of the nation's most talked about quarterbacks. Washington's Brock Huard, whose talented touch had him at the top of the national passing charts, and NU's Scott Frost, whose physical style personifies Nebraska football. It didn't take long for Scott and his teammates to set the tone for the day. 6 plays into Nebraska's opening drive, Frost authored a storybook beginning to one of his best days as a Husker.
Here's the option by Scott Frost. Breaks a tackle 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. He's going to score!
The pressure for Scott, it must have been a ton lifted off his shoulders. Scott's one of my favorite guys on the team. I know that he can get the job done, and I tell you what, I'm looking forward to great things after this game, after the type of game that he had, and it's going to be exciting to watch him the rest of the year.
Scott wasn't done. In fact, he and the Huskers were just getting warmed up and putting the heat on the Huskies. A Chad Kelsey sack on the next possession highlighted a brilliant defensive stand by the relentless Blackshirts, which pinned UW back at its own 4. After a punt, NU took over the ball and then took over the game. It didn't take long for Frost to make an encore appearance in the end zone, where several thousand Husker fans awaited.
He's to the 20, 15, 10, 5. He dives in and scores!
Yeah, I think it was just meant to be maybe that I happened to run both touchdowns right at the Nebraska fans in that section of the stadium, and it was very gratifying. And to have that much emotion stored up before the game and that much electricity in the air, and to be able to do that, it's something else.
As Nebraska's 14-point first-quarter lead grew to 21-0 midway through the second quarter, so did the nation's respect for the Big Red. The battle between the nation's top rushing team and what was supposed to be the best defense against the run was no contest. The Huskies, who had held 2 previous opponents to a combined -5 yards rushing, saw Amon Green and Joel Makovica each turn in 129-yard days. In all, NU amassed 384 yards on the ground, and the big boys in the Big Red Machine couldn't have been happier.
I don't know that we expected that it would be easy, but we expected to do the things that we did. We expected to blow them off the ball, and so it ended up being easy for us, but I just think we were really well prepared.
It was real special to go out there and play the way we played. There was a lot of doubt about the way the Husker offense or the whole Husker team was going to react to this game in Washington. We knew that we had a great team, and all we had to do was go out there and prove it to everybody else.
The quarterback duel never materialized either. By the second quarter, Huard was long gone due to injury, while Frost was simply on fire. The Wood River native rushed for 97 yards and left no doubt that he was at home as the Huskers QB.
It's the first time that I played that well in a really big game other than the Orange Bowl. So, you know, as far as national title implications and things like that, that was a really big game for the entire team. And the whole team just came out and showed that we were ready to play under that kind of pressure in that big game.
Washington, meanwhile, felt anything but at home against NU. Husky Stadium, reputed to be the toughest place to play in all of college football, was flooded with nearly 10,000 red-clad Husker fans who invaded the Dogs' house and turned it into another home away from home.
Almost both end zones were full with Nebraska fans, and that's just a tribute to the fans we have, that they follow us and support us wherever we're at, and they're, I think, some of the greatest fans in the country. So I think that helps you anytime you're on the road is when you can get fan support like that, and it's kind of a little piece of Memorial Stadium anywhere you go.
Washington was able to trim the Huskers' lead to 7 late in the third quarter, but never really threatened. A pair of Chris Brown field goals in the fourth quarter made the final score 27-14. The game wasn't as close as the final margin indicated, especially in the trenches. The Blackshirts held the Huskies to just 43. That's right, 43 yards rushing. There was simply nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, no way for them to win.
We felt for us to win, we had to shut down the run. And if you watch the tape, we really shut down the run. We actually blew them off the ball. We out physical. We did anything we wanted with them. So that was our game plan. We went in and we executed it well.
Nebraska, meanwhile, ran at will, passed efficiently, and executed a game plan that showcased the Nebraska coaching staff at its best. As a result, the Huskers had reason to celebrate when all was said and done. No doubt about it, they were once again front-runners in the race for the national championship.
The thing that's happened now is you're in position. You know, it isn't won, but I mean, you got a chance. You got as good a chance as anybody. And so now it's important that we don't let that chance slip away. And that means that you prepare well all the time. What we got to do is make sure that we're getting better, because other teams are getting better as the season goes along. We got a chance now. You guys did a great job. So I've set it up. So let's really hook it up and see you later.
I was really excited at first, and then there was definitely a sensation of real relief and real thankfulness that it had gone that way. And it went great, and we just got to keep it rolling from there.
If the win over Washington was a showcase for Nebraska football, then the Kansas State game was a showcase for the Big 12 Conference, as its two best teams took center stage under the lights at Memorial Stadium.
Here come the Huskers.
After knocking off the Huskers had vaulted into the number 3 spot in the major poll and had become the talk of college football. For K-State to be mentioned among the nation's elite, the 16th-ranked Wildcats would need to do something they hadn't done in 28 years, beat Nebraska. It didn't take long for the Big Red to send a message that the 1997 matchup would be no different than any other in the past 3 decades. On the game's first possession, the Huskers methodically marched downfield on a 10-play, all-on-the-ground drive that culminated with the game's first points.
Here is a handoff to Amon Green. Scoots to the 20, 15, 10, 5. He'll score!
After 5 minutes, NU led 7-0. While the Wildcats would answer with a score of their own, they had no response after that, as the Big Red's Blackshirts got downright defensive.
Here is a ball knocked away, intercepted. It's taken by Eric Warfield. He's to the 25, the 20. And Eric Warfield gets it down to the 16-yard line. That ball ricocheted right to him.
The Huskers continued to put points on the board. A pair of Chris Brown field goals and a Scott Frost touchdown run made it 20-6 heading into the locker room at halftime. By then, the Saturday night party was well underway at Memorial Stadium, and the Husker fans who made up the 217th consecutive home sellout were loving every minute of it.
I think the part I enjoy most about playing for Nebraska is walking out on the field with 76,000 people. I enjoy the fans the most. You know, I enjoy hearing the roar of the crowd, knowing that you're playing in front of a crowd that just love you, just because you are who you are.
The rest of the night was highlighted by a number of big plays that had the Wildcats reeling and the Big Red rocking. The star of the Huskers' second half show was Amon Green, whose 4-touchdown performance was just another night at the office.
They go to the ace offense. Here's a handoff to Amon Green, sweeping the right side, across the 45, 50. He bounces free. He's on the far sideline, 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Amon Green!
Amon's 59-yard sprint was followed by a 50-yard score on a fake reverse that made it 41-6 by the time the fourth quarter rolled around. At day's end, Green had compiled 193 yards rushing on 20 carries and had reasserted himself as one of the nation's best backs.
I had a great game. I could say I was in the zone, as some people put it. Everything went right. My offense, I think my line was in the zone with me because they was on me and it was clicking. Everything we did, every play we ran, every block we made was right on the money.
Meanwhile, the nation's top defender was rewriting the Husker record book. With 2 more tackles for losses, Grant Wistrom took over the top spot on the all-time NU charts, surpassing former Butkus Award winner Trev Alberts. Wistrom's record-breaking performance was part of a total team effort that limited the Wildcats' high-powered offense to just 98 yards on the ground and 260 yards total. Perhaps most impressive was the play of the young Huskers secondary, a group that included 2 sophomores, 1 senior, and true freshman Erwin Sweeney, who made his first career start.
It was very exciting for me. To come out and be able to start and just to be able to play for the Huskers, that's a real thrill. A lot of people wish and they dream to get to this spot that I'm at, so I was very proud of myself.
I think the K-State game is probably a turnaround for us. We've been getting a lot better. As long as our front four plays as well as they have been, stopping the run, and we just keep getting better and better at our coverage-wise and techniques and responsibilities, and then I think we can move up to probably in the top 10 in defense.
In all, the Blackshirts allowed just 8 completions and picked off 2 passes, the second of which delivered a fourth-quarter knockout.
Joe Walker, 45-40, 35-30, near sideline, 25, still on his feet at the 20, cuts back to the middle. He's going to go all the way. Joe Walker, 70 yards for the score.
I just kept my eyes on the quarterback and more focused on him. When the ball went up in the air, I just broke on it. And then eventually when I caught the ball, my eyes kind of got big. So from then on, I was thinking touchdown. So I had a couple key blocks and took it in from there.
While Walker's touchdown return was impressive, he may have been overshadowed on the play by teammate Clint Finley, whose crushing block typified the night and Nebraska's dominance in a 56-26 conference opening win. By season's end, Kansas State would make its way into the top 10. By the end of the month, the red-hot Huskers would be number 1. The next stop en route to the top was Nebraska's first ever trip to Waco. It was now mid-October as the Huskers hit the heart of the '97 campaign and found themselves deep in the heart of Texas for another night game, this time against Baylor.
Let's start off with being physical on this thing right from the opening kickoff, all right? 1, 2, 3. Right. Come on, let's go.
After weeks of perfect game day weather, the conditions were less than ideal as a steady rain fell from start to finish, but it failed to dampen the Huskers' spirits.
We got the rainy weather. It's going to be a sloppy game. It's going to be all us, though, all us, all the big red.
I'm really glad it rained because that turf, it was like playing on Oak Street. It was just terrible. That turf was terrible. So when it got really soaked like that, it made the turf a lot better to play on. So plus I just got excited when it started raining. I just felt it was a lot of fun to play in the rain.
As it turned out, it didn't matter. Rain or shine, the Big Red wasn't about to lose the momentum it had gained with back-to-back wins over ranked opponents. So after rocking Washington and Kansas State, the Huskers kept right on rolling with 6 first-half touchdowns, 4 of which were scored by Amon Green.
Scott Frost looks like he's changing the play again. Takes a snap, rolls to right, pitches the ball up to Amon Green. He's to the 30. Big hole, 25-20. He's to the 15. Off to the races, to 5. He's in again for another score.
Green had 152 yards by halftime. By then, the game was decided, and his work was complete. 35 unanswered points gave Indy an impressive 42-7 halftime lead. The Huskers' run kept Chris Brown busy. By the end of the night, the talented Texan had become the top-scoring place kicker in school history, just 2.5 years into his career.
I've been fortunate enough to where I came in as a freshman and got the opportunity to play early, and I think that's really helped me out a lot throughout my career, just for the simple reason that I was kind of thrown into the fire early, and now it's allowed me to go out there and do some things. Whereas, if I wouldn't have played as early as I did, I might be a little more hesitant or things like that. But it feels good to be able to contribute.
While Brown was putting his name in the record books, a number of the younger Huskers were beginning to make a name for themselves, especially on defense. Sophomore linebacker Tony Ortiz led the Big Reds bear hunt with 5 solo tackles, including one that he won't soon forget.
I just was at the right spot, I guess, and I closed my eyes and just went at him. I got up. I knew I laid a lick on him because I heard the crowd go, ooh. So I was like, oh, man, I must have did something. So I saw the replay. I was pretty hyped.
Another newcomer who was emerging as a headliner was freshman cornerback Erwin Sweeney. A week earlier, he made his first start as a Husker. In his second start, he made his first big play.
Looking right, lobs a pass into the end zone, knocked away and intercepted. And the automatic touchback, Erwin Sweeney comes away with it.
That first interception, it's a confidence builder. I mean, it builds my confidence a lot. I mean, now I feel I'm ready. I'm ready for that second interception, the third interception. I'm ready for the rest of them now.
Sweeney's interception stopped the Bears in their tracks for the time being. As the game wore on and as more Husker reserves got in on the action, Baylor made a late charge to make the final score 49-21, leaving the Big Red with a bittersweet taste of victory, but better for the experience.
Coach Osborne is not a man that's going to run the score up. I'm quite sure in the Baylor game, if we wanted to score 80 points, we could have left Farden Ones in there for the first 3 quarters, and it would have been out of hand. But Coach Osborne knows he needs to get the younger guys, ample enough playing time, because there's nothing like learning on the field, and we need the young guys to step up a little bit and fulfill their role, because that's going to be the legacy after we leave here, after us seniors leave. We're going to need those young guys to keep up our name.
With the win over Baylor, Nebraska was now the nation's second-ranked team and also its hottest team. For Game 6, the Big Red was back in Lincoln, facing one of the top teams in the Big 12 South, Texas Tech. It was homecoming, and the alumni had reason to be happy. The conditions at kickoff were perfect, and as it would turn out, so too were the Huskers, who took to the field for Tom Osborne's 300th game as Nebraska's head coach. On the opening drive of the game, Texas Tech drove to the Nebraska 35, but came up empty. The Red Raiders would get no closer the rest of the way. After a not-so-satisfying ending at Baylor, the Huskers were on top of their game from start to finish.
Here's Lethbridge. He's in trouble. He's brought down at the 16-yard line by defensive tackle Jason Wiltz. The black shirts were all around him.
Ethan's playing pretty good football right now. As a whole, we all not having as many busts as we did earlier in the season. Playing pretty good.
The Blackshirts were especially relentless, recording 4 quarterback sacks and limiting Texas Tech to just 17 yards on the ground and 127 total.
Yeah, it was good. We finally put, everybody together at one time. Secondary linebackers and the D-line all played pretty good. So, it was good to get that first shutout. I mean, we're proud as a defensive unit to get it. And, we work hard to get those shutouts. So it was a great job done, and we're just going to keep rolling.
Offensively, it was another blue-collar day for the Big Red. The nation's top rushing team for the 11th time in 18 years. The Huskers ground out 400 yards on an incredible 69 attempts against a Tech defense that proved to be one of the toughest NU would face all year. But it was still no match. Chris Brown was impressive once again with 3 first-half field goals. But it was fullback turned receiver Joel Makovica who caught everyone's attention when he snagged the first touchdown catch of his career.
They send Makovica going to the right. Here's a roll to the right by Scott Frost into the end zone. Touchdown pass. It is complete to Joel Makovica.
As the game wore on, the Huskers had the Red Raider defense worn out, which was understandable. In all, Nebraska ran 35 more plays from scrimmage and outgained Tech by more than 300 yards. Amon Green had another stellar day as he rushed for 178 yards and almost 2 touchdowns. Make that a touchdown and an assist.
Here is the pitch to Amon Green at the 15. He's to the 10. He's to the 5. Stumbles his way, fumbles into the end zone, and it's fallen on by John Zadiska. Zadiska fell on the ball for the touchdown.
Feels pretty good, I guess. I mean, offensive linemen don't usually get a whole lot of chances to do that, so I feel pretty privileged.
Green finally reached the end zone in the fourth quarter for the game's final points. For Nebraska, it was an impressive 29-0 win. So impressive that it put the 6-0 Huskers back on top of the college football world as the #1 team in the nation.
It's something that we've earned. It hasn't been handed to us. I think, the #1 spot is something that, we wanted to get to, but we also know that, teams are going to be gunning for us, so we have to be ready to play every week.
It feels pretty good, but I mean, there's an upside and downside, and the downside is that everybody's going to be out to get you, and you got to keep winning games convincingly to keep the voters on your side. So I mean, it'll be tough. I think we got the team that can keep doing it.
The first team with a chance to give the top-ranked Huskers its best shot was Kansas.
We're the #1 team in the country. Let's play like it. 1, 2, 3,
A familiar opponent, it was the 104th border battle in the nation's 3rd longest series. A familiar result, the 35-0 final was Nebraska's 29th win in a row over the Jayhawks, who saw any hopes for an upset washed away early in the cold October rain.
And anytime you can go into a game and post a shutout, I mean, your defense has to be happy. It was great football atmosphere too. I mean, the rain was coming down. It was a little bit cool, and I mean, we had tons of Nebraska fans down there.
On a night better suited for ducks and football teams who love to run, the Huskers opened the game with a workmanlike 12-play drive that took nearly 6 minutes off the clock and resulted in 7 points. It was all a determined group of Blackshirts would need to defend the nation's #1 ranking.
Yeah, I think about it every day, but I think that drives me to practice harder, and when we play on Saturday, to prove to everybody that we are #1 and that there's a reason for that.
Some say it's better to be lucky than good. Against the Jayhawks, the Huskers were both. Case in point, KU's block of a Nebraska punt changed the momentum, but only for a moment.
Oh, and the kick is blocked by Kansas and is picked up by one of the Huskers. Joel Makovica, 35-40, 45-50, 45-40. Makovica, 35, knocked off his feet at the 32-yard line. How about a swing of things after Kansas blocked the punt?
We never want to get any kick blocked on offense, and so it was a bad play in that way. But after he blocked it, I was just looking for the ball and scooped it up and got some great blocks and ended up getting the first down.
It was a demoralizing turn of events for the boys in blue, but not for the Big Red and the 20,000 Husker fans who faithfully braved the dreary elements. As has been the case in Lawrence many times before, they provided NU with another home away from home field advantage.
I've played down at Kansas twice since I've been here, and both times we had more fans than they did at the game. And I think that obviously that you can't say enough for our fans, and when we travel that well, it really helps us out as a team.
We're out on the field and our crowd's louder than theirs. I mean, it sounds like a home game. I mean, our crowd's just cheering and chanting different things, and it's really, I think it'd be hard for their offense and then just to be a player on their team, period. I mean, I'd be embarrassed that you don't have the crowd that the visitor has.
Wistrom and Kelsey and the rest of the Blackshirts gave Husker fans plenty to cheer about and future opponents plenty to think about. Simply put, they were confident and they were dominant.
Here's Wegner back in the pocket. He's in trouble, and the Blackshirts get to him. They sack him at the 10-yard line. A loss of 6. Steve Warren got in there on him tough.
I think it's amazing that we hold the Kansas to 48 yards, and I think that the defense is really coming together strong, just to the team, it feels real good after you look on the statistics sheet that we held the team to 48 yards.
That's right. Kansas gained just 48 yards on 48 plays. 21 on the ground, 27 through the air, and no points on the scoreboard. It was Nebraska's best defensive effort in more than 30 years and the 5th best all time. Meanwhile, the Husker offense was seemingly on cruise control. Leading 7-0 after the first quarter, NU struck again, and then again to kick off the second.
Here is the quarterback keeper by Scott Frost. 20, 15, 10, 5. He's going to go all the way. Touchdown!
Thanks in part to his 27-yard touchdown run, Frost joined Amon Green with a 100-yard night on the ground. While it took Scott 21 carries, it took Amon just 19 minutes of the first half to top the century mark. By then, there was no doubt. The Big Red Machine was playing lights-out football. Literally. With 9 minutes left in the half the lights in the stadium went out, delaying the game and the inevitable. While Kansas struggled to reach midfield, let alone get into scoring position, there was no stopping a Nebraska offense that ranked as the best in the country. A pair of touchdowns during a fourth quarter downpour made it 35-0 and provided the final margin of victory. It marked the Huskers' second straight shutout, but what was most impressive about win number 7 was that it assured NU of its nation-leading 36th consecutive winning season.
If you look at each game, each week, we've made progress from week to week. And, you know, if we want to play in a Big 12 championship and a national championship, you know, that's something we're going to have to do. And, you know, we're on the right path to be there at the end of the year.
Throughout college football history, there have been few rivalries that can match the tradition and intensity of Nebraska and Oklahoma. It was a series headlined by some of the greatest names and games in memory.
Rogers takes the ball at the 30. He's hit and got away. Back upfield to the 35, to the 40. He's to the 45. He's to the 50, to the 45, to the 40, to the 35, to the 20, to the 10. He's all the way home. Holy moly! Man, woman, and child did that. Put him in the aisle. Johnny the Jet Rogers just tore them loose from their shoes.
The first day of November marked its final chapter, one that had a happy ending for the Huskers, their fans, and for Tom Osborne. The win over the Sooners was the 250th of his career, a milestone that he reached faster than anyone in history, and one his team was determined to give him.
It's something special, and to do it for Coach Osborne, be a part of, and, you know, he's like second father to most of us on the team, and it's something I'll never forget. Got to play for the best college coach in history.
It didn't take long for the victory party to get started. On the 5th play from scrimmage, Octavius McFarland scooped up a Sooner fumble and raced 43 yards to set up the game's first score.
Here's Fuente running down the left side of the line, lost the football. It's loose. It's picked up by one of the Huskers by Octavius McFarland. He's to the 35-30, 25-20, still at the 15, and is finally dragged down at the 8-yard line.
A trademark of the NU-OU rivalry was its back-and-forth battles and down-to-the-wire finishes. The 97 edition wasn't one of them. Thanks to big hits and big plays, like Bobby Newcomb's 57-yard punt return, Nebraska scored early and often in a 20-0 first quarter.
Growing up in Nebraska, you know, you always see the great games when I was younger and stuff, remembering like the battles they'd go through and the tradition that Coach Osborne always talks about. And no, I knew we'd beat them pretty good, you know, if everybody played well, but I never figured we'd shut them out like that.
It was a bad day for the Sooners, in part because Grant Wistrom enjoyed one of his best days as a Husker. The senior All-American led the Big Red with 10 tackles, including 4 for losses, in helping to dismantle the Sooner attack and prove once again that he was the Big 12's best defensive player.
We knew starting at the beginning of the year we were going to be a little soft early in the year, but as the year went on and the young guys got game experience, that we were going to be pretty salty at the end of the season. And right now, that's the way it's looking.
Wistrom and company forced 7 first-half fumbles and recovered 4. Each time, the Husker offense took full advantage, scoring 20 points off turnovers, including 6 on a dazzling catch by Newcomb on NU's first play of the second quarter.
Scott Frost to rifle it down the field. Newcomb's out there. He got it. He's to the 5. He'll score.
And I got in there, and Scott was like, "Get open." You know, he told me right in my eyes, looking straight in the eye, and told me that. And I got out there, and I looked the guy straight in his eye, and he was trying to play a little bumper run coverage. And I gave him a little move to the outside and went up underneath him, and Scott hit me perfectly. I just caught the ball and ran the end zone, and since that was my first touchdown, I got a little excited.
For the quarterback turned wingback, it was a big play kind of day that added even more sparkle to a very bright future.
Coach is starting to use me a lot more in the game now. He's showing a lot more confidence in me that I can get the job done when I'm out there. And it's a great feeling being able to contribute to the team.
While the sky above was putting on a colorful show, the Battle of the Big Reds belonged to Nebraska. While the Sooners totaled just 154 yards against the Blackshirts, the Huskers ran for more than 400 thanks to a pair of 100-yard rushers in Amon Green and Joel Makovica, who also scored a fullback record 3 touchdowns. When it was over, it wasn't close, as NU dominated 69-7 and posted its 7th straight win in the series. It was the kind of performance that made one Oklahoman happy to be a Husker.
I played well, and our whole team played well, and we just went out there and dominated those guys. And it's just a good thing to know for myself that I made the right decision on what school to come to, and that way I don't have to look back and have any regrets.
The game, as it turned out, was a mere formality for a post-game celebration that was 25 years and 250 wins in the making. Long after the sun and the rainbows had given way to the bright lights of Memorial Stadium, Tom Osborne finally took center stage, where the Nebraska football family awaited to share in his record-breaking moment.
Coach Osborne, on behalf of the Nebraska football teams over the past 25 years and the 1997 Nebraska football team, we'd like to thank you and congratulate you on your 250th victory over 25 years.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the players. I'd like to thank the coaches who have given us a great effort, tremendous dedication over a long period of time, and above all, I'd like to thank the fans. You've been very faithful, very loyal. Appreciate it very much.
Tom, we know that you always pass the credit on to somebody else, but great leaders make great programs, and Nebraska thanks you. Go Big Red.
As he stood with his players, coaches, family, and friends, fireworks lit up the sky above to honor his unprecedented achievement. His record for years has ranked him alongside the legends of the game. But on this particular night, Tom Osborne stood alone as the greatest coach of all time. No doubt about it.
When you mention the legends of college football, his name has to be one of the names mentioned. And, you know, I feel honored to play for him. You know, I feel honored to, you know, not just for the 250th win, but every time I step on the practice field. I mean, he's a great man, and Coach Osborne is why Nebraska football is as good as it is today.
He's a great guy. I wouldn't want to play for anybody else, and you know, Coach Osborne will go down in history as one of the best coaches I think ever coached a game. Just, you know, his record speaks for itself. I think the better you get to know him, the more you like him.
After the Huskers' historical win over Oklahoma, top-ranked Nebraska took its show on the road to Columbia to take on a Missouri team that rated as the nation's most improved.
Hey, let's go, fellas! It's time to play now! Let's go!
An artist couldn't have painted a more colorful setting for football in the fall. And Hollywood could not have come up with a more dramatic script for what turned out to be one of the most unforgettable games in college football history.
The snap to Scott Frost. He's going to run the quarterback draw. He's to the 10. He's to the 5. He hurdles in for the touchdown.
Like two prize fighters slugging it out in the center of the ring, the Huskers and the Tigers waged an all-out scoring attack against one another, but neither could score a knockout. Though Missouri fans did have reason to cheer when their team took a 24-21 lead into the locker room at halftime. While the Tigers were thriving on the emotion of their momentum, Scott Frost and his Husker teammates remained calm amidst the storm that was brewing. Even when they were pinned back inside their own 1-yard line, Frost and company were unfazed at the challenge ahead of them, taking to the air to retake control.
The backfield is stacked in the eye. Here is the hand. Oh, no, it's a fake by Frost. A pass over the middle, and Newcomb, has he got it? Yes! He held on at the 35-yard line. How did he catch it?
5 plays later, Scott again took to the air.
Here is a roll out to the right side by Scott Frost. Sets up a screen on the left wing to Amon Green. He's to the 50, 45, 40. He's to the 35, 30, 25, 20. Far sideline, finally forced out of bounds.
Frost then capped the goal line to goal line drive with an option and a sneak that gave Nebraska the lead. Unfortunately, not for long. Trailing 31-28 early in the fourth, Chris Brown capped an 11-play drive with a 44-yard field goal that was as good as gold for the Big Red. After the two teams traded turnovers, Missouri got the ball with 6.5 minutes to play and ended up getting the lead 2 minutes later. While Missouri fans celebrated a victory they thought was in reach, the teams traded possessions. The Huskers had hope, but no timeouts when they forced the Tigers to punt. Nebraska had one last chance with just 1:02 left.
I was really calm because the way I felt, you know, I didn't think people would probably expect us to be able to do it, but we were going to get a chance. And so I didn't really feel any pressure, any emotion, anything. I was just trying to do the job.
ABC's regional coverage had gone national, and the country watched as the drama unfolded. Beginning the drive at the NU 33, Frost was as cool as ever as he hit Kenny Cheatham for 27 yards, putting the Huskers in Tiger territory at the 40. 3 snaps later, Frost hooked up with freshman Matt Davison for 13 more yards and a first down. Then it was Frost to Cheatham for the 3rd time on the drive, this time to the Tiger 12.
There was no doubt that we were going to win the game. Everybody was just looking in each other's eyes and saying, hey, this is a job we have to get done. This is where we were put. We were put in this position for a reason, and we have to go out here and score a touchdown in order to make it into overtime.
7 seconds remained. Nebraska's last chance drive was down to one last play.
3rd down. Frost to the middle. Juggle. Diving touchdown, Nebraska. Davison on the deflection. Nebraska's a point away from tying the game.
The ball's in slow motion, just floating like a punt, end over end. And, you know, I guess instinct takes over from there. You just kind of, I came here to catch the football, you know. Maybe not quite like that, but I got one catch there.
At first, I thought Shevin caught it from where I was. I couldn't tell for sure, but then I saw the ball bouncing around. And at that point, you know, I was thinking the game was over. But then I saw the referee come in from the right as if he was about to make a call. I saw Matt Davison holding up the ball, and then I saw the referee's arms go up. And it was an unbelievable feeling of relief, really. And then all I could think about was getting everybody off the field so we didn't get a celebration penalty.
I didn't even realize I started running down the field, and then Lance tackles me there about the 30, and then I look back, and the field's getting rushed by all the fans, and I thought then for a moment that they called it incomplete again.
In their anticipation of a celebration, Tiger fans stormed the field, oblivious to what had taken place. The Huskers were now within a point of tying the game, but it wouldn't be easy for Brown, who faced the most important kick of his career.
I remember walking on the field, and there were people dangling from the goalposts, and the goalpost was swaying back and forth, and I'm sitting here having to kick at a moving target to tie the game up. But at that point, I just knew it was something that I had to go out and just do it like I've been doing all year long.
Brown was perfect, sending NU into overtime for the first time ever. And for the first time in the game, it was all Nebraska.
I mean, right there, I think I knew that we had it wrapped up with that, and knew that after that, I think it's going to be unstoppable for us.
The Huskers got the ball first. Amon Green picked up 13 yards on the first 2 plays. Then Scott Frost capped a remarkable day with a 12-yard run that gave NU the lead for good. Finally.
Here's the option by Scott Frost. He'll run the football, following blockers. He's to the 5, and he dives in for the touchdown.
The knockout had been delivered. The Tigers were in shock, and the Blackshirts were in control. After 3 plays gained little ground, the game ended when Missouri natives Grant Wistrom and Mike Rucker combined to sack the Tigers' dreams of an upset and keep their own national championship hopes alive with an emotional 45-38 win.
To come back from those kind of odds and to fight our way out and scratch out a win, it was really an amazing deal. And the emotion down there was running high, and I think everybody felt it.
For Matt Davison, the miracle in Missouri made him an instant legend in the annals of Husker history. And the catch, seen round the world, made the freshman from Tecumseh a national celebrity.
Sports Illustrated, ESPN, and Tecumseh Chieftain. Everybody's, you know, calling me and all these things. And to me, I'm just out there to do things like that, you know. The coaches had me out there for a reason. They thought I could maybe do something.
In the emotional aftermath of college football's Game of the Year, Nebraska's celebration was one of championship proportions, and with good reason. With their thrilling win, the Huskers' hopes for a third national title in 4 years were very much alive. The challenge now for Coach Osborne, his staff, and players was to prove to the rest of the country that they were the best team in America and leave no doubt.
Well, listen up. That's a real fine effort. Good job of maintaining your poise. And you know, you can learn a lot from a game like this. And very grateful that we were able to pull it out. Obviously, some things we need to do better, but the main thing is we hung in there, didn't give up, pulled together, and let's finish it out now. You know, we got about 4 more games to win, and let's win them all. Okay? No one's stopping. Yeah. So I think you can use this momentum to go all the way. And I don't know what the polls will do. We can't worry about that. But if we win the rest of them, I think we're going to be where we want to be.
What can you say? That's the character of our team. We're going to go 4 quarters no matter what the score is. It doesn't matter. We're going to do whatever it takes to win. We're a great football team. We came out and played 4 quarters today. It doesn't matter. The first 4 quarters didn't matter. We took care of it in overtime today.
Emotions were still running high a week later when Nebraska met Iowa State in the final home game of the season.
All right, ready? Hut. That's it. Good, good. Way to get after now. All right, you're up.
It was senior day at Memorial Stadium. It was time for Big Red fans to say goodbye to a group of 23 young men whose dedication to excellence, both on and off the field, will rank the class of '97 among the best in school history.
The senior class is really, really close. And we have a lot of respect for each other. We have a lot of love for each other. And we have a tremendous amount of unity on this whole team, from senior down through freshman.
It was real emotional in the pregame, and everybody just wanted to go out and play really hard and make it a memorable game for the seniors, and I guess it was a pretty good game.
Given the emotion of the moment and the fact that the close call in Columbia was still fresh on the minds of the Huskers, Iowa State simply had no chance.
The handoff to Amon Green, 15, 10, 5, he's all the way for the score!
5 minutes and 3 big plays into the game, Nebraska led 21-0 and 35-7 by the end of the first quarter. By then, the Big Red had already rolled up 210 of its 594 total yards. While the Huskers ended the season as the nation's top offense, the fact that it ranked among the best ever at NU is even more impressive.
I see that people are realizing what a good job we're doing here, and you know, my offensive line and Makovic are making me look good here. You know, so we finally giving me credit and giving my team credit.
Amon passed the 100-yard mark on his first carry of the second quarter and ended the game with 209 yards on just 15 attempts. The NCAA's second-ranked rusher in '97. Green finished the year second only to 1983 Heisman Trophy winner Mike Rozier on Nebraska's all-time charts.
I'd say the offensive line is about 99.9% of what I do out there, because they get a majority of the guys out of my way, and all I have to do is break a couple tackles. You know, usually by the time I get touched, I'm in the defensive backfield.
The handoff to Amon Green, breaks a tackle at the 45, he's to the 40, 35, 30, far sideline, he's to the 20, 15, 10, 5, he's in!
Amon was one of 7 different Huskers who reached the end zone on the day, as NU posted a school record-tying 63 points in a first-half scoring explosion. for the Huskers. It was the kind of performance that left an impression on everyone, including the Huskers themselves.
Right before halftime, it was 56 to 7, and I really couldn't believe the score. And coming out after halftime, we had 3 chances to score right away. And I've never been on a team that scored 63 points that quickly.
It was another day in which 100 Huskers got to play. While the second half was nothing like the first, it wasn't necessary. Iowa State was no match for Nebraska, as the Big Red extended the nation's longest home winning streak to 42 games, a feat spanning 6.5 years. The 77-14 win over the Cyclones secured for Nebraska its second straight Big 12 North title. But what was most significant about that day in November was that as Tom Osborne left the field, few were aware that it was his final game at Memorial Stadium. Upon the formation of the Big 12 Conference, the powers that be elevated the Nebraska-Colorado game to the league's marquee matchup, hoping to create a post-Thanksgiving tradition with a pair of national title contenders.
They haven't beat us in 7 years. They're not going to beat us now. They're not going to beat us now.
In 1997, the Huskers were 10-0 and ranked number 2. The Buffs entered the game a disappointing 5-5 and were nowhere to be found in the top 25. Therefore, a win over NU would make their season. The Big Red wasn't about to let that happen.
The last thing I want to remind you, still a game, fellas. Don't worry about all the poll stuff and all that. Let's just go out there and play a great game. Let's have a good time playing today. We have a great team, and you should enjoy being on this football team. Enjoy playing the game today. Play it with that spirit. Let's make big plays. Think about what you're going to do positive, not what might happen. Think about what you're going to do to contribute to a great day and a great game today. Okay, let's grab a knee, and then we'll have about 5 minutes for the captains.
The Huskers got the game off to a good start with a monster 14-play drive that took nearly 7 minutes off the clock and resulted in a 3-0 lead. After Colorado missed a field goal try to tie, Nebraska's second series carried into the second quarter and was highlighted by a long pass to an unlikely receiver.
The backfield in the eyes, second down and a yard. A fake. Here's Frost firing a pass down the field to Makavika. He makes the grab, and he's inside the 15 at the 14-yard line of Colorado. 21 yards on the play.
It was yet another display of offensive diversity by Nebraska, who took a 10-point lead 2 plays later when Scott Frost weaved his way untouched on a 19-yard run.
It was a 48 counter sweep where I came around me and John ended up pulling, and I came around. There was nobody there to block, and I ended up running with Scott stride for stride into the end zone. And I was kind of hoping he'd look at me and pitch the ball back to me, so I could get a touchdown for it. But that's probably a play I'll remember the most.
After a Colorado field goal made it 10-3 to close out the half, the Huskers had to wait before answering back. But after the break, it didn't take them long. The first play of the second half was the biggest of the day as Amon Green broke free for 64 yards. He then wasted no time in finishing what he started.
First down and 10 to go. The handoff to Amon. Tries the middle, bounces off some players, pivots away, takes it to the 10, to the 5. He'll waltz in for the score.
2 plays into the third quarter, Nebraska led 17-3. 2 plays later, Colorado was back on the board and within 7, only to see the Big Red battle right back.
The snap to Scott Frost. He'll roll to the right side. Fires a pass down the field. Cheatham's got it. He stumbles and falls down in Colorado territory.
Frost's 31-yard third down pass to Kenny Cheatham was significant. Not only did it keep Nebraska's drive alive, but it also made history. With 61 yards rushing in the first half and now 64 yards passing in the game, Scott became the first Husker and just the 10th player all-time in Division I to rush and pass for 1,000 yards in the same season. Scott followed with a 22-yard pass to Matt Davison that put the Huskers within striking distance. 4 plays later, they took advantage and took a 2-touchdown lead, 24-10. After a trade of possessions and Erwin Sweeney's second interception of the season, Chris Brown added to his school record when he connected on his 12th straight field goal attempt near the end of the third quarter. A season-long 46-yarder, it proved to be the difference in the game.
I really don't put a lot of emphasis on personal achievement or records, and if I really want to do things right, do things the way that they're supposed to be done on Saturday to help the team win, and hopefully by doing so I'll be able to play, we'll all be able to play for a national championship on January 2nd. That's the most important thing to me.
While the Buffs staged a late rally in the fourth quarter, the Huskers turned them away when it mattered most and held on for a 27-24 win.
I think the score really didn't show the actual game. I think a lot of mistakes were made at the end, and we could have ran up the score, but we still, to come out with a victory, I think that really showed what kind of team we had, kind of heart.
At the beginning of the season, we put up on that board that we wanted to go undefeated during the regular season, and we accomplished that goal. And and by finishing it out, this is our senior year. We finished 4 out of the last 5 seasons undefeated, and that's a tremendous feat for me and my teammates. And I think that's something that we're always going to remember.
At 5-6, Colorado's season was over, while NU was unbeaten, having reached the 11-win mark for the 5th straight year. A tremendous accomplishment, even by Nebraska standards. But this was a Husker team that still had some unfinished business. The best team in the conference during the league's first 2 seasons, the Big Red was clearly focused on capturing its first Big 12 crown. As the calendars changed from November to December, it was now time for the Huskers to make the 1997 season a championship season. That meant beating Texas A&M in the Big 12 playoff in San Antonio.
About to come in here, it's about to run through Texas A&M. We're coming to play today. We're number 1.
After a disappointing 96 campaign, the Aggies had reestablished themselves as one of the best teams in the country. But it didn't take long for the Huskers to show that there is a difference between being one of the best and being the best.
Back in the pocket goes Brandon Stewart, and right away, sack! Back at the 14-yard line, Jason Peter, bad back and all, gets to him.
Playing with a back injury that limited him to a half day's work, Jason Peters' sack was one of 6 recorded by the Blackshirts. It was only the game's first play, but the message was clear. The Big 12 belonged to the Big Red.
And it shows that Jason has a lot of heart. I mean, for number 1, and we knew his back was hurting for the last couple of weeks. And once he went down, we were somewhat prepared for it. Me and Steve Warren, we had been alternating all week long, and we just knew we had to pull together.
While A&M managed just 2 first-half first downs, Nebraska scored on 7 straight possessions. Beginning with a 6-yard run by Scott Frost, who had yet another outstanding day. With 79 yards rushing and a season-high 201 yards passing, his stats were impressive, and so was his leadership and all-out versatility, which proved once and for all that he was the league's best QB.
Scott Frost runs the ball and passes the ball very well, but you watch this here. He just obliterates a guy in a peelback block. I mean, he knocked him from here to Sunday. Holy cow.
Another guy who had another great day was Chris Brown, who ran his streak to 16 straight with 4 field goals on the day, 3 of which came in the first quarter as Nebraska jumped out to a 16-0 lead on a team that was giving up just 14 points a game. While the Aggies were already feeling the heat, the Huskers were just getting warmed up as the second quarter began. After A&M went 3 and out for the 4th time, NU got into the end zone 4 plays later when Amon Green stretched in at the end of a 25-yard run. It was the first of his 2 touchdowns on a day in which he carried the ball a career-high 34 times for 179 yards. After A&M got on the board with a field goal of its own, the Big Red got the ball back with just 2.5 minutes left in the half and made the most of every second. A 3rd down pass from Frost to Davison was Scott's 10th completion in 11 attempts, and it was good for 51 yards to the Aggie 17. 3 plays later, Joel Makovica paved the way to pay dirt with a devastating block at the goal line that helped the Huskers take a 37-3 halftime lead. With 172 yards on the ground and 176 through the air, it was NU's most balanced attack of the season.
Especially in that game, we really tried to balance our attack. Going against their defense, there were certain things that they were very vulnerable to. We feel like with our rushing game, it's pretty much unstoppable. And if you try to, you know, line up 9, 10 people in the box, then, you know, we have the players and the ability to make plays in the passing game as well.
Meanwhile, with a -5 yards rushing at the break and just 13 for the game, Texas A&M had no attack at all against the Nebraska defense that finished the year ranked 5th in the nation.
It felt wonderful to go out there and just bust them up, because they're supposed to be the most physical teams in the nation and all this type of stuff, and that Texas football is supposed to be so rough and tough, but we just showed them who's the best team. Just went out there and took it to them right in the mouth.
After NU added 3 in the third, both teams scored twice in the fourth quarter to make the final 54-15, giving Nebraska its 12th win of the year and its 59th in 5 years. But more importantly, it gave the Huskers what they wanted most, the Big 12 title and a shot at the national championship.
To all of you and to the coaches, we want to congratulate you not only for this game, but on a wonderful year. Just an absolutely terrific season. And on behalf of the Big 12 Conference, we're proud to present this trophy to not only the Big 12 champion, but the champions that we think is the best football team in America.
Let's get somebody that can hold us here.
Big 12 championship, baby, go to New York!
I'm extremely happy for Coach Osborne. I mean, it's just another feather in his cap. You know, it's a great honor to get to play for such a great coach. And, you know, when you let him down like we did last year, you feel really bad about it. But when we play great like we did today, you feel especially good about it.
Feels good. You know, we should have had one last year. This one's nice. This one's definitely nice. We're going to finish it off, you know, our entire season with another victory down in the Orange Bowl. And, you know, hopefully everyone will wake up and realize that we're the best team in the country.
You know, I don't know how anybody in the country can watch this game and think that if we don't win all our games that we don't deserve at least a share of it. You know, we feel like we're the best team in the country.
The Huskers still had one goal remaining, to become national champions once again. For the seniors in the class of '97, whose 4-year record of 48-2 is the best in history, finishing on top would be a fitting conclusion to their careers at Nebraska.
We have 23 seniors, and that's about a typical size senior class, and yet from the standpoint of academics, graduation, senior leadership ability, this has been a fantastic group, and of course most of these guys experienced 2 national championships and certainly an undefeated season here at 12-0. So they've accomplished a great deal, and I think their attitude, their cohesiveness, and their leadership has been extraordinary.
When I put on my uniform every Saturday, you know, I'm selling my body out for them, and I know they're doing the same thing for me. And I mean, that's what makes this program so great, is because I mean, we're teammates by chance, but you know, we're friends by choice. Because you know, we got probably the greatest bunch of guys in America who can come together for one reason, and that's to be a great football team.
With the win over the Aggies in the Big 12 title game, the second-ranked Huskers earned a bid to the Orange Bowl, where they would play number 3 Tennessee in a matchup with national title implications for both teams. However, the importance of the game and the future of Nebraska football took a dramatic turn on the afternoon of December 10th.
Essentially, you know, at this time, obviously, I'm going to step aside after the bowl game. I want to make that very clear that it's got to be after January 2nd.
It was an announcement that brought the state of Nebraska and the world of sports to a standstill, and one that understandably brought an outpouring of emotion from the people Coach Osborne said he would miss the most, his players.
He's arguably the best coach in college football history, but the thing that he really does for his players is he doesn't just teach us on the field, but you know, by his example and the example he sets, we don't just learn football around here. We learn how to be grown-ups, how to mature, and how to become men. And that's the thing that he's taught me the most, and I'd like to thank him for that. And we're just going to do our best to go down to the Orange Bowl and make sure that he goes out a winner and goes out a champion. Thanks, Coach.
The heartfelt words of love and reverence for their coach provided further evidence that there is something special about Nebraska football. It was an unforgettable moment, as was the announcement that Frank Solich, Bob Devaney's former fullback and Tom Osborne's longtime assistant, would become the next head football coach at the University of Nebraska.
I'm proud of where this program's at. I hope that I can follow in Coach Osborne's footsteps. I'll do the very best I can. I believe the players believe that and know that, and so we'll be fine.
The future of Nebraska football is now in place. And with more than 250 wins in 25 years, 13 conference titles, and 2 national championships, Tom Osborne's place in history is secure as well. Simply put, he is college football's greatest coach. And as he steps aside, he does so while still at the pinnacle of his profession.
The main objective is to play at the top level. You play at a level where you could be, should be, whatever, the national champion. And if people don't vote it to you, well, that's not your fault. You can't worry about that. So I'm very proud of what we've done this year.
Because of Tom Osborne, and because of the players, the staff, and the entire state, there is something special about Nebraska football. No doubt about it. Thank you to Walgreens for helping sponsor No Doubt. This has been a Husker Vision production.